Hello and happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this stream, big community chatter and the fundraising stream. Although the second part of it, fundraising part, probably will fail, but at least community chat will work out and community will be happy with this program. As always, I have prepared a new segment for you with the latest updates on some major developments, and hopefully you will like the video. And in that case, please click that like button, leave some commentary, share link with your friends will be very helpful to deal with extremely aggressive algorithm and the shadow ban, especially on YouTube, of course. And in case you want to participate in a fundraising part of this stream, you can donate to this project through PayPal, by the way. Link is under this video in the description box. Also, there is a Boustead platform. Link is there too under this video. And Patreon, of course. You can subscribe to my Patreon page. And of course, I will highlight if there will be any support during their stream after their news segment, by the way, I will mention. And on Rumble, dear friends, you can use, of course, a super chat feature to support my work or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. My channel is monetized there, so there is options. And right now I dropped link to my Rumble channel on in the YouTube chat, and hopefully this link will work in case you are interested. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's go through some news first, isn't it? And then let's have a good chat, by the way, about any topic you like. Of course, if there will be any questions through support platforms, super chat on Rumble or PayPal or Boostead, I will react on that first at a new segment, and then I will join chatter, of course. And please use capital letters in the chat to highlight question or the topic that you want to discuss, and that will make it easier to spot. Actually, that's all. These capital letters, or at least capital Q. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's go through some news, and we do have some important updates. I'm going to start with the latest information in regards to recent attack on Russian Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, first deputy chief of Russia's main intelligence directorate, GRU, as it's also known worldwide. This attack happened. A few days ago on Friday, as you know, literally day after, negotiations, trilateral talks were finalized in Abu Dhabi, in which U.S. delegation participated, delegation of Kyiv regime, and the Russian delegation. And the Russian delegation was led by head of GRU, so his first deputy was shot on Friday in Moscow. He survived, by the way. His condition is still very heavy, but he regained consciousness, and medics are doing whatever is necessary to save the life of a general. And today, dear friends, I was monitoring, obviously, Russian segment of internet, and the number of sources reported that Russian general actually fight back, attacker, shooter, right? He realized quickly, he is, after all, GRU officer, right? So he quickly realized that some dodgy stuff was happening, and he was about to be attacked. And reports are that he fight back, and that's why one of the bullets that was shot at him hit him in the leg. Right, he was fighting with the attacker to take his gun, and two bullets hit him in a stomach, right? And so he fight back, and probably that saved his life. Attacker did not have the opportunity to basically shoot him in the head, and the attacker was arrested. As I reported in my previous updates, attacker was detained, and there another person who was, assisting him on that. And for example, this morning, We already have official confirmation of these reports, and RIA Novosti, for example, shared with the public that perpetrator of their assassination attempt on Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, Lubomir Korba, that's name and surname of attacker, has been detained in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. The FSB, Russian Federal Security Service, Public Relations Center reported, and then some quotes here, with the assistance of their partners from the United Arab Emirates, Russian citizen Lubomir Korba, born in 1960, who was the directed perpetrator of the crime, was detained in Dubai and handed over to Russian side, the intelligence agency stated. According to investigative committee, Korba was originally from Ternopil region, from Ukraine, by the way. He arrived in Russia in late December to carry out terrorist attack on behalf of the regime's so-called secret services. On Friday morning, in house on Volokholamsk highway, he shot Alexeyev at least 3 times with a Makarov pistol with a silencer, then fled. The general was hospitalized. A few hours later, the killer left the country. After his extradition, he was arrested in Moscow. Korba's accomplices were Russian citizens also, Viktor Vasin and Zinaida Serebritskaya. The former was detained in Moscow. They later fled to Ukraine. This Viktor Vasin was detained, by the way, but Zinaida Serebritskaya left Russia for Ukraine through some ways. Case has been opened for attempted murder of a serviceman and illegal firearms trafficking. The search for organizers is ongoing, and we'll understand who is the organizer, right? We'll understand this. According to Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov, Vladimir Putin has received reports on the situation. The Kremlin wished Alexeyev a speedy recovery, and on a matter of organizers, I have no doubts, by the way, that U.S. CIA, U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, and British MI6 military intelligence were involved in preparations of this attack. They orchestrated and greenlighted basically this attack, and obviously they used their proxies in Kiev, Kiev regime so-called secret services, to maintain plausible deniability. And well, unfortunately, not I am head of Russian security services. Otherwise, I would make sure that for this attack on Russian general, at least 10 CIA officers and 10 MI6 officers would be killed, neutralized, right, as they're freaking rabid animals. I would make sure, if I was the head of either GRU, by the way, or FSB, I would make sure, by the way, that at least 10 of terrorists from either CIA or their MI6 would be exterminated, liquidated, right? And I would do it in a manner that would shock everybody in these terrorist organizations. And you know what? Russian GRU knows how to do this kind of stuff. So at least they knew it, right? Because probably many of you know, dear friends, that some time ago during the USSR, staff of Russian embassy in Lebanon was kidnapped, and one of the kidnapped Soviet citizens were killed. And Russian GRU, according to legends, by the way, Russian GRU captured perpetrators, organizers from Hezbollah. Hezbollah was behind this attack, and Hezbollah was just forming at the time in Lebanon, right? And Hezbollah received their members in a truck, in pieces. And this message sent by allegedly GRU was effective enough. So since then, Soviet Union never had no freaking issues with the Hezbollah. Everyone understood how things are working, right? And I guess similar message has to be sent to CIA and MI6. And we have to open a hunt on CIA stuff and MI6 stuff, man. We have to kill them all. To be, little more precise, we just have to kill them all, man. Right? These are our enemies, and let's kill them all. Period. There is no need to freaking talk any more than that, right? Yet again, it's a CIA, it's a MI6, and their proxies in Kiev that committed this terrorist attack and all the other terrorist attacks, by the way, of a larger scale. And when it comes to MI6, we'll understand British ruling class is a Russia hater for centuries now, right? But when it comes to US, it is a probability that maybe, just maybe, Trump was not briefed about this attack on a Russian high-ranking general, and if so, this information, this can be another indicator that there is a clearly sabotage is going on inside the US by globalist allies, sabotage of current administration there, right? By globalist allies, and that is of course deep state, intelligence community, and their establishment of Democrats. They are all one criminal gang, right? Neocons, obviously, by the way, neocons. All the crimes US commits, are linked to neocons too, usually. So that's how it is. If anything, and if Trump was actually not informed about this stuff, if he has any freedom to operate as a president of US, he has to dismiss CIA, man. He just has to dismiss this terrorist organization, CIA, right? This has to be done. This has to be done because this terrorist organization is becoming a major danger for US citizens and for the rest of the world, alongside MI6 on that matter. So that's the update. By the way, two of these terrorists were detained that were operating on behalf of Kiev regime, British secret services and US secret services. One managed to flee, but justice will catch up with that another one too, and justice eventually will catch up with everybody, right? All it takes, by the way, I mean, as I've said many times before, Russian security services, I'm quite sure, have data on literally everybody who committed any crimes against Russian citizens, against Russian Federation. And one day they're going to have a green light to go ahead and exterminate all the enemies, right? One day, maybe not until Putin is Russian president, but he's not going to stay in a Kremlin forever, right? They're going to come when other person will be Russian president, and hopefully that other person will have no sentiments towards either US or the UK or the Western world, generally speaking, and that other person in the Kremlin will greenlight Russian security services to exterminate all Russian enemies, right? As it should be done already, but yet again, Putin has a soft spot for, certain topics, right? And it is what it is, man. He never gonna authorize, he never gonna untie the hands of Russian security services and the Russian militaries to use all the means necessary to deal with their enemies. You know this, I know this, everybody knows this, and it is what it is. We just have to deal with this situation because Vladimir Putin is the president of the Russian Federation. Majority of public decided that that's how it's gonna be. They voted for Putin, and we have to deal with all the positive and negative consequences of this decision. That's how democracy works, right? Okay. And obviously, everyone understands that this attack on deputy of the Russian head of Russian negotiating team during that trilateral talk in Abu Dhabi was directed to derail the talks, right, between Moscow and Washington, and they failed. I mean, in this regard, even though they targeted the general, they failed to kill him, and they also failed to derail the talks is if these talks have any meaning, really, right? But they failed because Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, few hours after attack on Russian general, said that next round of talks will take place on Ukrainian matters, by the way, will take place soon. So clearly Moscow has no intention to pull out of these useless talks, right? And I can understand if someone will tell me that, you know what, Levan, these talks either in Istanbul or in Abu Dhabi were not actually completely useless, at least because there was some success on a humanitarian track, and this is true. In both cases, there was some success, some progress in humanitarian track. Due to negotiations in Istanbul, as a result of it, Russian side transferred to Kiev regime bodies of at least 12,000 killed military personnel of Kiev regime's armed forces and received bodies of around 200 killed Russian military personnel. And as a result of Abu Dhabi talks, just day before yesterday, I believe, there was an exchange of POWs. 157 Russian POWs were released by Kiev regime, and Russian side also released 157 POWs from Kiev regime's forces. Also, I believe three Russian civilians from Kursk region were freed during this process. So clearly on humanitarian track, there is some progress, but I'm quite sure this progress on humanitarian track could be achieved without this high level, let's say, or highly publicized trilateral talks, right? There is a means of communication between Moscow and Kiev, and certain progress in humanitarian track was reached basically even without any public talks taking place in the past. So therefore, that's the reason why I'm saying that this engagement of Moscow with Washington is just waste of time, and I don't know how long it's gonna take for Russian president to just stated finally that enough is enough. We try diplomacy. It did not work. Now let's green light Russian security services and militaries to take whatever actions and with whatever means are necessary to wrap up this conflict as fast as possible, right? And that means that Russian militaries will have or should have, in that case, opportunity to use all the military means that is in disposal of the Russian defense ministry, including extreme force. Because after all, by the way, that's how Russian officers are trained, right? To use all the means they can use, right? All the means to achieve success. And during this special military operation, they've been denied, Russian officers, by the way, generals, colonels, everybody were denied to use all the means that Russia has. That includes nuclear weapons too. I can be more precise on that. Let's use fucking nuclear weapons, right? To exterminate enemy, man. Anywhere on this planet. I don't give a damn, man. Enemy is enemy and has to be exterminated, period. That's my approach. And whatever gonna happen, okay, we can deal with that too. That's how it is, man. Otherwise, let's get rid of freaking nukes, man. And all the other weapon systems that can be classified as extreme. Let's get rid of it then. Why we have it? Why we spend billions on maintenance of these weapons? I mean, what is the point in that case? Anyways, by the way, I mean, frustration and anger is on the rise, by the way. I don't know if you are monitoring comment sections on Russian segment of internet, but and I don't know if Kremlin is monitoring public opinion, by the way, but if they do, they should realize that significant part of patriotic Russians are frustrated. Significant part of Russian citizens that are very patriotic and are in absolute support of Russian militaries and know 100% that Russia is on the right side of history. Those people, by the way, are becoming more and more frustrated with this freaking restrained and useless talks with their enemies, right? That lead nowhere, only invites more trouble upon us, upon Russian citizens, upon Russian militaries, Russian security services, Russian Federation. It is what it is, right? And would be better if Kremlin is monitoring this stuff, because come on, man. Dmitriev and his team, and there is certain links, by the way. I would not go into details, but Dmitriev is not a random person, writer. There is certain link between Dmitriev, and between Putin, right? And yes, they tried, right? They failed. So let's acknowledge this now and move on. And let's untie the hands of Russian security services and Russian militaries to finish this war that West launched against us. Let's finish it, man. How long this war gonna continue? How long we gonna allow Western ruling class to kill our citizens? Like another year, another 2 years, another 5 years? How freaking long? And on a matter of this conflict, how long it might last, well, I shared yesterday information that Zelensky, by the way, stated that U.S. allegedly is hoping, or U.S. ruling class, or their leadership, however you're going to frame it, are hoping that this conflict will end before summer, which is a lie, obviously. Obviously, if U.S. if U.S. leadership actually wanted to finalize this conflict, they would withdraw all their assistance to other NATO countries that are engaged directly in this proxy war against Russia. They will withdraw all their assistance to Kyiv regime, right? And they will seek with Moscow actual de-escalation. But they did not. We know this, right? This is factual. This is not an exaggeration, nothing. This is just factual, right? So therefore, U.S. is seeking no end of this conflict. What U.S. wants is to transform responsibility for this war on Europeans completely, or almost completely, while they will have a little more assets in their disposal to be more focused on some other directions, right? That's all. So if anyone says that Washington wants to end their proxy war against Russia, that's someone either intentionally or unintentionally, but lies. That's how it is. Washington is all about prolongation of this war, and all these rumors are just a part of public relations, right? To paint certain picture about Washington. It's a PR, nothing more. Because obviously this conflict cannot end before summer, because that would require from Moscow to basically compromise on literally all the goals of special military operation, right? That is demilitarization of the Kyiv regime, denazification of the Ukraine. That is root causes of the crisis to be addressed, right? Liberation of all the new regions, obviously, and the root causes of the crisis to be addressed, and that requires obviously new security architecture to be worked on and then implemented, right? At least first steps to be taken to implement this new security architecture. This is a long process. This cannot be done from now to June, let's say, right? From now to summer. It's just not realistic. Only way we might actually see some de-escalation, at least on the military side of things, is if Moscow will compromise literally on all points. And I don't think this is realistic. Although I cannot be sure, obviously, because I don't know what is the calculus of the Russian president, Putin, or his inner circle. I don't know what their plan is. But I mean, I guess to compromise on all their main goals of their special military operation, there would be a large drop for public. I mean, significant portion of the public here in Russia, and not just public, right? So I don't think Kremlin will risk that much. Although, who knows, man. So therefore, in upcoming days and weeks, probably there will be more and more rumors that this conflict or military phase of this confrontation might end before summer. But I don't buy into this nonsense, because it just cannot happen. It just cannot happen. We all want this conflict to end, but we want this conflict to end on Russian terms, because so many lives has been sacrificed for victory, for protection of the Russian citizens, for protection of Russia. So many lives were lost, so much damage and harm was endured by Russian Federation, that we just cannot compromise now on anything. Unconditional victory. That's the only way that can be acceptable for, I believe, vast majority of the Russian citizens. My personal opinion. And by the way, another reason why it is unreasonable to believe that this conflict might end before summer is that, well, a number of high-ranking or high-level public figures in the West basically openly are saying that they are against the end of this proxy war. They are all about prolongation of this conflict, and we know what they are up to, isn't it? They want to prolong, to sacrifice Ukraine as long as possible, at least until end of 2027, isn't it? Because that's the time frame when first stage of militarization of European NATO member states is going to be somewhat finalized, right? And I guess there is some calculations done, 2027, 2029, by the way. And I guess some calculations were done in the West, right? In Europe, first of all, that they're going to be ready to directly engage the Russian Federation militarily, right? By 2029, 2030, ideally, but even earlier, maybe. And they are focused on that. And just recent attack on Russian general, yet another confirmation of this intent of their globalists, right? And globalist control regimes in Europe. They clearly try to derail talks that were useless anyways, right? But they have a fear. Clearly, European elites mistrust Trump's administration, American ruling class. They might be part of one team, right? One anti-Russian team, but there is a certain friction between them, right? And even though, yet again, these talks between Moscow and Washington not gonna lead anywhere really. European elites were scared, right? And they try to derail these talks while orchestrating this attack on the Russian general. And by the way, and this is one of the reasons why am I saying that we might see direct clashes between European NATO member states militaries and Russian militaries already this year, towards the end of this year, possibly, or first half of 2027, because that's the time frame I guess that the regime gonna last. I don't think the regime gonna be able to survive for another 2 full years or 3 full years. No, 10, 18 months or 12, 18 months, that's probably max, right? And on this matter, by the way, Wolfgang Ischinger, chairman of the Munich Security Conference, once again claimed that ending the war in Ukraine is not in Europe's interest. So you see, they are not even hiding nothing. They are quite clear what is their intent, right? In an interview with the Tiger Spiegel, he urged that the ceasefire could increase the threat on NATO's eastern flank. Ischinger said Russia's military posture would become more dangerous for Germany if any future ceasefire is on is not accompanied by major limits on a troops deployment in Russia's western military districts. So you see, by the way, they're still dreaming about achieving strategical defeat of Russia, right? They want her, and ideally they are dreaming about dividing Russia into numerous parts, right? And then to establish control over these parts. But probably they are understanding that this dream is just totally unrealistic. And now they are seeking to cut off some territories from Russia, Western territories, first and foremost. Kaliningrad region, for example, is clearly a target for them. They are planning to attack Russia from Finland there, also very obvious, right? From Baltic Chihuahuas, also obvious. Germany is deploying its brigades, over 100 tanks in Lithuania, right? For a reason. And other countries too, it's not just Germany. And they want to basically force Russia to capitulate and then to force Moscow to agree on the limitations of Russian troop deployments on its own territory, on Russian territory, in Western regions. That's what this animal, Wolfgang Ischinger, is saying. Clearly animal, by the way. Let's be real here. This is not a human being. This is a scum of humanity. Biological rubbish, right? Extreme Russophobe, Nazi, fascist, most definitely descendant of some fucking Nazis that were burning people alive in some concentration camp. That's what these creatures are, man, right? That's what these creatures are. Let's make no mistake. And they are dreaming about revenge on Russia because they cannot live with the idea that my grandfather and his generation beat the crap out of these animals, Nazi Germans, during their Second World War, right? They cannot live with this, right? They want revenge. They are quite open about it. You think their Russia hate is coming from where? They are Nazis. They are same Nazis, by the way, same fascists. If you think these German Nazis are respecting anyone else today, no, man, they are just freaking good at playing, man. They are good at games, right? Acting. All these German elites, man. Elites, I'm not talking about ordinary people because I have no freaking idea. I never lived in Germany. So I'm not going to say nothing about how people feel there. But German elites, man, day in, day out are demonstrating how full of Russia hate they are. How despicable, disgusting they are, right? Nazis and the fascists, man. That's their face. And they are quite open about their plans. And the only question I have personally is, are we going to wait until they will attack openly on us, or we're going to take some preemptive measures? Because we have every right to take preemptive measures, by the way, and demilitarize Germany, demilitarize France, demilitarize UK, demilitarize everybody on this freaking planet if we want to. Right? So what we're going to do, that's the only question I have, by the way. Are we going to wait exercising this freaking restraint, or we're going to do something about it, actually, before they will attack, right? And kill God knows how many of our people. I think we should attack first, right? We should take some preemptive steps and demilitarize Germany. It's, Russia definitely has means to do so. We should denuclearize and demilitarize, obviously, France and the UK, right? And if US ruling class is suicidal, and if they will get involved, then, we will take care of them too. Even if we all going to die in the process, but we will make sure that our enemies, none of our freaking enemies going to survive, right? We can do this, and we should do this, by the way, I think, right? But, my personal opinion that US going to stay out of it. I'm quite sure US ruling class is a little more practical than some might think. They're going to stay out of it largely, right? So you see, this Wolfgang Ischinger, fucking animal, that is the chairman of Munich Security Conference, is publicly saying that ending of the war is not in Europe's interests. And they are dreaming about strategical defeat of Russia, to force Moscow to capitulate, and then to impose on Russia all sorts of restrictions. They are publicly saying about some of them, for example, restrictions on deployment of Russian troops in the Western regions. But I mean, they will have an entire freaking list, right? If they manage to achieve their dream, oh, they have a freaking list of demands against Russia. They will take everything. They will take everything, man. These fucking animals. And I just said that I don't think U.S. ruling class will commit suicide if Russia will actually go ahead with their demilitarization and denazification of Germany, France, and UK, right? With all means necessary. And I think so because every now and then, high-ranking officials in US that are clearly representing American ruling class, right, are demonstrating quite openly, by the way, their attitude towards their European elites, right? And Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary of the US, spoke about this and quite openly, publicly, demonstrated his kind of attitude towards European elites. I mean, he clearly has no freaking respect towards anybody that is in that represents European ruling class, right? At least that's my impression. Let's listen to. It's a short video, by the way. Let's listen what Scott Bessent said about it. I am not saying that he has any sympathies towards Russia. Man. No, he don't cares about Russia either. But he don't cares about Europe too, and the European elite supposed to be their allies, right? Let's listen to these statements. And that's the video. So.
It's very disappointing because the Europeans are on the front line of the Ukraine-Russia war. The Europeans, India started buying sanctioned Russian oil, and guess who was buying the refined products? The Europeans. So the Europeans have been funding the war against themselves, and like something.
Listen to this moment, dear friends. Bessent is acknowledging that, Europeans are fighting war against Russia. And he's openly saying, basically, right, that Europeans were indirectly financing the side with which they are engaged in a war. Let's listen to it again, by the way. This is important acknowledgement, right, on the part of representative of the U.S. administration. Let's listen from the beginning.
The Europeans, very disappointing because the Europeans are on the front line of the Ukraine-Russia war.
Europeans are on the front line of the Ukraine-Russia war. I mean, he did not say that Europeans are, fighting Russians. They do, obviously, European elites, but they are a front line. What that means, you only are on the front line if you are engaged in a war, by the way, right?
The Europeans, India started buying sanctioned Russian oil, and guess who was buying the refined products? The Europeans. So the Europeans have been funding the war against themselves, and
so Europeans were funding the war against themselves. You see, this is acknowledgement, by the way, right? That European elites, European NATO member states, alongside US, obviously, are directly engaged in this war against Russia. This is acknowledgement. And of course, this not comes as a surprise to many of you, because after all, high-ranking officials in the West, in US, in Europe, on numerous occasions said that, well, yes, they are engaged in a proxy war against Russia. They said it openly, isn't it?
like something that you couldn't have made up. the U.S. sanctioned or put a 25% tariff on India for buying the Russian oil. The Europeans were unwilling to join us, and it turns out because they wanted to do this trade deal. So every time you hear a European talk about the importance of the Ukrainian people, remember that they put trade ahead of the Ukrainian people. Trade, European trade, more important than ending the war in Ukraine.
They need energy, though, I guess, is part of their issue.
At a price, they want cheap energy. But we could have cheaper energy, too, if we were willing to buy sanctioned Russian oil.
Well, maybe US is not buying sanctioned Russian oil now, maybe, but they are happily buying Russian enriched uranium, right? Which is helping US to generate relatively cheap electricity, isn't it? Through nuclear power plants. So obviously there is a questions also in regards to US administration, no doubts about it, but Bessent demonstrated in this short clip, isn't it, that he just despises European elites, father. Absolutely despises European elites. He has no care about Europe, and I mean, all they are focused is on their own goals. And as I said, simultaneously, Scott Bessent make it quite clear what US wants. US ruling class wants to transfer responsibility for this war in all ways, all possible ways, on European elites, right? While they will be more focused on other directions. Western Hemisphere, China, and so on and so on, Middle East and so on, right? That's what is going on. That's what is going on. Although, yet again, this is not comes as a surprise for our community, obviously, because we do pay attention to all their details and their nuances, isn't it? And one might ask her, yes, Europeans are buying energy directly or indirectly from Russia, but on the other side, Russia is selling energy to Europe, right? And this is also true, by the way. And many people here in Russia have the questions, right? Have questions about it. Why are we providing European economies with whatever volume of energy, right? Especially countries that are hostile. Okay, Hungary is not openly hostile, and nowadays Slovakia is not openly hostile towards Russia, but others, I mean, rest is, isn't it? And when it comes to Russian LNG exports, one of the main buyers of Russian LNG is France, right? And why are we engaged in this business? I don't know, man. I myself don't understand this, right? Maybe to maintain certain level of production on the Russian industry, so that industry will survive until transformation of Russian energy routes will be finalized, right? Or redirect, or until we will redirect our energy flow towards the global south. Maybe this is just a technical thing that needs to be done. Yet again, I'm not an energy expert, right? But I guess it will be good if government will explain to us, to ordinary citizens, why on earth we are still providing anything at all to hostile countries, either in Europe or either in US, by the way. I'm quite sure Rosatom will be just fine if we don't sell enriched uranium to US, right? I'm quite sure Rosatom, Russian energy major in the field, will be just fine. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. There is so many questions, isn't it? And I'm quite sure, by the way, once this war will end, and this war gonna end one day, right? These questions will be raised. But now maybe it's not really time, because we are at war. Collective West is engaged in a war against us, right? And we have to win this war first, and then let's begin asking questions, right? That's how I think. Because if we need anything, we need unity, right? Any nation, by the way, whenever a nation is engaged in a war, first and foremost, that nation for victory needs unity. And even though public here in Russia might have numerous questions, we're going to maintain unity, of course. And once we will reach our goal, once Russia will achieve a victory, full and unconditional victory, then let's have a talk, right? Within the community here in Russia, within the public, and let's do some work on good decisions and bad decisions then, right? But questions are rising. Questions definitely are rising, by the way. And as I said, level of frustration in the public is also on rise, because there are certain policies that needs to be explained, at least. Maybe Kremlin has a good reasoning to be, for example, engaged in this talks with Washington. Maybe Kremlin has a good reasoning to exercise restraint. Maybe, right? That's a possibility, obviously. But it is also reality that, public has to be informed, at least on certain levels, right? You have to explain to people what are you doing, because we don't understand. Not just we ordinary people, by the way, experts in the field, military experts, political experts, right? Political scientists. I mean, they are questioning many stuff, right? Because they have no freaking idea what is going on. But yet again, I mean, first and foremost, we need unity. Let's win this war, and then let's have a good talk, man, because we need one, for sure. To first and foremost to make sure that whatever influence or whatever assets Western elites might have in Russia are going to be neutralized, right? We have to search for traitors, and unfortunately there are traitors in every country, right? And we have to deal with the fifth column. Maybe fifth column had something to do with certain developments that we have witnessed. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. Well, even though European elites, I mean, yet again, dear friends, whenever I'm talking about, when I'm saying Europeans, Americans, or this or that, I'm talking about elites, obviously, ruling class, right? Decision makers, not ordinary people that never been asked about anything, actually, right? Even if those people think they've been asked. No, not really. For example, European societies, by the way, probably are quite sure that they have democracies, right? And they are choosing their leadership, while in reality, come on, man, we all know that they are choosing nothing. They are choosing between the puppets of the decision makers, right? Which is not really choice that you want. Same goes for US, by the way. It does not matter who is in the freaking White House. Foreign policies of US stays the same. Usually that's the case, isn't it? Through decades and decades and decades and decades. So, and if you ask US citizens, they will probably say that they have a representative democracy, and yes, they are, choosing their leaders. And I mean, come on, man, you cannot be this ignorant, right? Or naive. But anyways, all societies have their strong sides and flaws, right? And Western societies are no exception, obviously. RT is also reporting that, well, even though German elites are dreaming about revenge on Russia and the Russian people for victory over their fascists, German fascists and the Nazis during the Great Patriotic War or Second World War, their capabilities quite often are not really catching up with their dreams or the demands, right? And when it comes to Germany, in this particular case, reports are that COVID financing this proxy war against Russia and US tariffs cost the German economy $1 trillion at least. I think real number most likely is like twice more, if not higher, but trillion dollars is also something, isn't it? Germany has lost more than $1 trillion in the GDP output over the past 6 years as successive crises pushed their economy into prolonged stagnation, according to German Economic Institute. A study released on yesterday, cited the COVID pandemic, Ukraine conflict, and the US tariff policies as the main drivers of their losses. And of course, I mean, this Ukrainian conflict can be interpreted, in a wider form, but including cut off cooperation between Germany and Russia in terms of, energy sector, for example. But we should mention it, isn't it, that well, our main strike on German economy was done by German elites themselves, right? By German ruling class itself when they destroy cooperation with the Russian Federation in economical field, right? First of all, in the energy field, they did it to their own economy. It's just too obvious, right? Without relatively cheap and accessible Russian energy, obviously German companies were losing competitiveness, and that's why thousands of companies in Germany shut down their doors, right? Tens of thousands of people were laid off. Hundreds of companies moved their manufacturing into other countries, potentially thousands of them, right? And this process of the industrialization of Germany is unstoppable now. It just cannot be stopped, period. And maybe that's why German elites are becoming more and more insane, right? In their policies towards Russia, because maybe they think they're gonna go full in now in this war against Russia, somehow achieve this dream of theirs, strategical defeat of Russia, to get their hands on Russian energy. Otherwise, they are finished. Maybe that's what's going on in their freaking brains there, and not just in German elites, but in elites of other European countries too. Well, might be their case, brother. Well, might be the case. Their IV reported Germany's pre-crisis 2019 economic trajectory with their hypothetical growth absent pandemics and their geopolitical shocks against their actual real GDP performance from 2020 to 2025. The institute estimated their shortfall in price adjustment GDP over their 6 years period at their 940 billion euros, or 1.1 trillion, 940 billion euros, or $1.1 trillion. In household terms, this present income Germany failed to earn, translating into loss over their 20,000 euro in added value per employee per person. So per employed person in Germany theoretically lost 20,000 euros in last 6 months. Anyways, by the way, more than $1 trillion loss, and I think this is a optimistic forecast on part of that institution. In reality, Germany's economy probably lost much more than that. To continue with some other news, RIA Novosti is reporting that air defense systems on duty intercepted their 22 drones that was launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO last night. 11 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region, 6 over the Black Sea, 4 in the Kaluga region, and 1 in the Kursk region. Also, Russian troops liberated 2 more settlements in the zone of special military operation. One settlement is Sidorovka in the Sumy region, and another one is Glushkovka in the Kharkov region. Let me show you on the map, by the way. This settlement, Glushkovka, I believe, is on the southern side of Kupiansk, right? So should be, wait, Kupiansk is a Kharkov region, right? So, okay. That's Glushkovka, by the way. This settlement here on the southern side of Kupiansk. And if you know, dear friends, I reported earlier that the Russian Defense Ministry announced the liberation of Kupiansk-Uzlavoye settlement, also on the southern side of Kupiansk. And well, based on reports of Russian Defense Ministry, then all this pocket that is not yet even in a gray zone on the left bank of the river. What is the river's name, by the way? Askol River, I guess. Yes, Askol River. All these pockets should be in Russian hands now, all this territory, right? But nevertheless, that's their update from Defense Ministry that Glushkovka, right, is liberated. And when it comes to Sumy region, Russian militaries are continuing to build more and more, to build buffer zone on more and more areas on the borderline. And this is Sidorovka settlement. There is no settlement left, basically. It's a forestry area on the border, and there was a settlement, I guess, sometime ago in the past, but area still has this name, Sidorovka, because on the satellite imagery, I mean, there is no freaking settlement there, right? Just forest and some fields, by the way, for agricultural work. So Russian troops, by the way, are continuing to create another buffer zone on this direction. Earlier, I reported about Kamarovka settlement was being liberated. This is actual settlement, by the way. You can see on the close-up, there is a, village there. Dozens, not a big village, but dozens of buildings there. So it was liberated, and I guess Russian troops finalized creating operation of this forestry area that is in a gray zone now between Kamarovka and Sidorovka settlements. Okay, that's when it comes to this update. By the way, earlier, dear friends, I reported about liberation of Chugunovka in the Kharkov region, right? Yesterday, there was reports that Chugunovka settlement was liberated by Russian forces, and the TASS news agency today reported, based on Russian Defense Ministry's updates, that last month in January, a Kiev regime on average were losing about 1,300 military personnel each year, and combined losses, killed and wounded, on side of Kiev regime amounted to almost 40,000. Quite significant losses on the side of Kiev regime, based on TASS news agency's reporter. Also, Iran, of course. Iran, by the way, we have to talk about this. As you know, Trump declared that talks in Muscat, Oman, were successful, and straight after he went to impose additional sanctions on Iran. So how successful were those talks if you are imposing more sanctions on this country? I don't know. And not just on Iran, by the way. Trump imposed additional sanctions on the transportation of Iranian oil and also other sectors there. And Trump went to also threaten 25% tariffs on all countries that will do business with Iran, not just in the energy field, but in any field. And that includes Russia too, obviously, although hardly anybody here in Russia cares about Trump's tariffs, even if the US will go ahead with 1,000% tariffs on Russian exports to US. We just don't care, because it's American side that's going to pay 1,000 times more, right? Because it's only a couple of billions trade between Russia and US. I mean, a couple of billions, a lot. That's it, man. Right? So not really much. And usually it's American side that buys some stuff here in Russia. Enriched uranium plays big part in that, and some other goods, rare, some rare metals, and some other stuff, right? So yet again, he can go ahead with a 1,000% tariffs on trade with Russia. Literally nobody here cares, man. Right? Also, when it comes to US-Iran confrontation or West Israel-Iran confrontation, Jerusalem Post, Israeli propaganda outlet, reported that Netanyahu plans to meet with Trump in Washington soon. The prime minister believes that any negotiations must include limiting ballistic missiles and ending support for the Iranian axis. No information yet when this meeting might take place between Netanyahu and Trump, but I guess it's next week, most likely. But Iran was very clear. Abbas Araghchi, for example, foreign minister of Iran, said that Tehran has no plans to get rid of its nuclear program or program to enrich uranium for civilian purposes, and Iranian leadership has no plans to freeze their missile programs either. This is our topics that they are not ready to compromise, right? So position of Tehran is very clear on the matter. And Abbas Araghchi also went to say that if attacked, Iran will retaliate on U.S. bases, right, throughout the region. And this time around, Iranian retaliatory strike might actually be a serious one. Not like we have seen before when Iran was letting American side about incoming strike, but this time Iran might actually, take decisive steps, right, and strike hard if attacked. And it's not if, actually, when attacked, because it's only a matter of time. And obviously, Western ruling class, while using US as a main weapon in their hand, they're going to launch assault on Iran. They're going to launch their operation to destabilize not just Iran, but whole of the Middle East, right? And I have said many times before what kind of plans Western elites have. They want to destabilize Iran. They want to destabilize Middle East, provoke internal civil wars in regional countries, when possible, even wars between the neighboring countries. And the reasoning is that Western ruling class wants to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait to cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. This is a decades-long plan, right? And they are actively working on realization of this plan. And I think neither Moscow, neither Beijing can allow this to happen. And if both capitals understand how dangerous this geopolitical game of the Western ruling class is, then I think in that case there is theoretical, at least, probability that Moscow and Beijing will send their deploy military into Persian Gulf, into surrounding area, Red Sea, Arabian Sea, right, Indian Ocean, on the eastern coast of Africa also, just in case, to deter Western ruling class. Message has to be very clear from Moscow and Beijing that attack on Iran will be interpreted as attack on Russian Federation and China. And they will retaliate. This has to be message. This is only chance we can stop Western ruling class from attacking Iran or from destabilizing whole region and cutting navigation into Persian Gulf. We cannot allow navigation to be disrupted there. We just cannot allow this to happen. This might be fatal for both of our countries, for Russia and China. And I have explained this many times before. Why is that? TASS news agency is also reporting that also Abbas Araghchi, by the way, who is a big headline maker these days, and quite often actually, he stated that he doubted basically U.S. seriousness in pursuing negotiations, and he has every reason to have some doubts. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi questioned Washington's seriousness in continuing negotiations with Tehran over its nuclear program. The imposition of new sanctions against Iran and certain military actions raise doubts about their other side's seriousness and their readiness to conduct real negotiations, Araghchi told reporters in Tehran. The minister's statements was published on his Telegram channel also, and yet again he has every reason to have some doubts or serious doubts about seriousness of US leadership, because they are not serious. These negotiations are just an attempt to gain some time for Washington, right? Because they still don't have enough assets, or it seems like that's what Pentagon thinks, that they still don't have enough assets in a region, not just to strike Iran with one wave of attack or 2 or 5 waves of attacks, but to maintain the pressure, to maintain capabilities of prolonged military pressure, right? Prolonged attacks or sustainable attacks, right? For weeks on end. And this is a serious issue, isn't it? Maybe soon we will learn that US is deploying another aircraft carrier towards the region, because yet again, Iran has means to strike literally any military base that US has in the region, right? And therefore, possibly Pentagon is afraid to deploy too many assets, too many aircrafts on airfields that are in range of Iranian missiles, right? And so, I mean, if in upcoming days, by the way, today, tomorrow, day after, we will learn that US is redeploying another 1 or maybe even 2 aircraft carriers towards the region, then, well, that will be definitely at least indirect confirmation of that my understanding of the situation was correct. US is not attacking Iran right today and in past days, because they just have not enough assets to sustain the military pressure. They can launch hundreds of missiles at once, right? Maybe even for several days, but that's about it. And to create a power vacuum in Iran and to push the Iranian society towards their collapse and the civil war, this would not be enough, right? US and its allies, they have to be in a position to sustain long-range strikes, right? To make sure that they're going to be total power vacuum, right? And they're going to push people towards internal confrontation. And they don't have enough assets for now. Aircraft carrier, by the way, on the maximum of its capacity, can operate maybe a week, by the way, right? And they will run out of ammunition. Planes that aircraft carriers are carrying, have on board, every hour, every sortie they do, they need dozens of hours of maintenance. Now, people don't think quite often how important the logistical side of things are, right? And the technical side of things. So this Abraham Lincoln may carries like 50, 60 strike aircraft on board, potentially more. Formally, it can carry 90 planes, right, of different types. But yet again, after every sortie, plane has to be refurbished, and some technical work needs to be done. Usually, it's hours and hours on end. So one aircraft carrier is to demonstrate power. Yes, it's impressive, but not really. If you keep in mind their actual capabilities, right? So let's see what's going to happen. And I just mentioned Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier of US, isn't it? And another indicator that US is not serious about these negotiations is that Kushner and Witkoff, that were participating in negotiations in Oman, well, left Oman for aircraft carrier. They landed on aircraft carrier. They were making some pictures and stuff. What the hell? Who does this, man? Who does this freaking stuff? Especially during the talks, man, during the negotiations. If you are serious about achieving something, and are these people grown up, or what the heck is wrong with them, man? Why, when they gonna stop acting these tough guys? Oh, they landed on aircraft carrier. Look, how cool pictures we are making now on, and on back side you can see F-35s and FA-18s and stuff. I mean, really, who gives a damn, man? Who gives a damn? Clowns, freaking clowns, I'm telling you, man. If this world lacks anything, this world lacks serious people in high-ranking positions. Serious people, man. Especially Western world, right? I would not say the rest of the world is doing much better, but I mean, when you take a look at the Western world, then yeah, it's a freaking circus, isn't it? Macron, Trump, Stammer, Merz, this Meloni in Italy, by the way. I mean, and I'm not mentioning others. It's a freaking circus, isn't it? And all the other figures there. So yes, it's only a matter of time, by the way. And of course, if Russia and China will not make the march, strong the march, if Moscow and China, together or separately, will not make a stand and say that your attack on Iran will be interpreted as attack on Russia and attack on China, and we will retaliate. If such a stand will not be made by Moscow and Beijing, then I think Western attack, Western Israeli combined attack on Iran, and their final push towards complete destabilization of the region is inevitable. Meanwhile, a few more news I want to share, dear friends, with you in this news segment, and then let's have a little chat. Well, I want to show you a video, by the way. Before I say anything, I want to show you a video. Many members of our community probably will understand straight away what's going on. Just a sec, dear friends. So take a look at this video, by the way, and if you understood straight away, then good. If not, I will explain in a minute. Did you hear that sound? And also silhouette, by the way, of that plane. It's a Su-57, and this video allegedly was made in Algiers. Allegedly, yet again, obviously I was not there, so I cannot confirm with 100% certainty that it is indeed Algiers. But simultaneously with this video, other videos are circulating with their Su-35s, right? In Algiers, Su-35s of Algerian Air Force, and this is, I believe, first video first video, by the way, confirmation that Algeria might actually be the first country that purchased Russian fifth generation multi-role fighter jet, Su-57 fighter jet. NATO designation is a felon, isn't it, of Su-57? So I think it is interesting, isn't it? Definitely nasty surprise for French Air Force, French naval aviation, French militaries and political leadership, generally speaking, because relationships between France and Algeria is very tense, and French leadership is dreaming about destroying Algeria, right? They are dreaming about it. And who knows, man, they went to attack Libya, isn't it? And they might actually provoke confrontation with Algeria too. Algerian leadership knows this, right? And they are preparing as much as they can. They are buying, they are preparing their militaries. They are buying all sorts of weapons from many countries, including Russian Federation, by the way. And well, Su-35 is their best fourth generation fighter jet, fourth plus generation fighter jet, if you ask me. In hands of a professional, I don't think there is any fourth generation plane in this world that can beat in air-to-air fight Su-35. I don't think there is any plane at all, fourth plus generation, or maybe even fifth generation, with the exception of Su-57, that can beat Su-35 in a dogfight. I don't think even US F-22 can beat Su-35 in a dogfight, by the way, because you know dogfight, isn't it? It's a visual range, close range dogfighter, fight between the aircraft, and Su-35 has this 3D nozzles of engine nozzles of Su-35 can move 360, right? It's a extremely maneuverable plane when US F-22 nozzles can go up and down only. It's so that limits its maneuverability. It's still quite maneuverable. It's a thrust vectoring. I can see, yes, Nitish Kumar is commenting now. Yes, thrust vectoring. Sometimes I just forget certain terminologies, by the way. After all, English is not my first or second or third language, isn't it? So, yes, it's a thrust vectoring. So Su-35 and Su-57 also, by the way, as it is the case with Su-30, for example, they have 360 thrust vectoring. US F-22 only 2D thrust vectoring, up and down, that's it. So in a dogfight, I don't think F-22 can beat either Su-35 or Su-57, or even Su-30, by the way, for that matter, if both pilots are on top of the game, right, on both planes. And of course, presence of Su-35s is a very nasty surprise for French naval aviation and the Air Force. And the presence of Su-57 in Algerian Air Force is a death sentence, by the way, actually, for French naval order ground-based fighter aircraft, or any aircraft, right? Any military aircraft. So I think this is good news, worth attention, especially for the people that love the aviation. Michael Kennedy is commenting now. F-22 would have AI arguing with the pilot. Yes, this one of their Achilles heels of Western equipment is always over engineering. Always, by the way, they are over engineering stuff for money purposes, because they know the more they over engineer stuff, there is more probability that something going to break down, and maintenance brings these companies more money than sale of their weapons themselves, right? So it's a scam that is going on in the West for decades and decades and decades. That's a whole another issue, obviously, right? But yes, this is, I believe, if video is genuine, if video was made in Algeria and by silhouette and by noise, you can clearly say it's a Su-57, by the way. So that's a first video confirmation of presence of Russian fifth-gen fighter jet in Algerian Air Force. Let's see if there will be any official confirmations of this information. Earlier, dear friends, I reported in several updates that there was talks about one of their countries purchasing. A contract was signed allegedly, and they already purchased their Su-57s, and there were different speculations which countries that: Algeria, maybe UAE, maybe India, maybe this or that country. And now, with a high probability, we can say that it was most likely Algeria. And when it comes to Russian fifth-gen fighter jets, by the way, I saw this report on TASS News Agency, which is also quite interesting. Russia is in talks with the Middle Eastern countries to jointly manufacture fifth-generation aircraft. The Russian Federal Service for the Military Technical Cooperation told the TASS News Agency. And because I have some doubts that Russia will transfer technology in full scale to the any Middle Eastern country, actually. And because I have some doubts that Russia will agree on licensed production in the Middle East of Su-57, this may be done only with India, I guess. Russia and India are so close, historically speaking, that if any one country gonna get Su-57s and the technology with it, it's India, first and foremost, right? Other countries might buy export modification of the Su-57, as Algeria did, seems like, but transfer of technology is a whole different story, isn't it? But what is going on in this particular case, I guess, is that, Russian Su-75, that is Checkmate, isn't it? Checkmate was the work name of the plane. And, this Checkmate plane that you can see right now on your screen, that little one, by the way, this one, with one engine, this was presented during one of their air shows in like few years ago, and maybe Russia is actually in the talks. Maybe Russia actually is in talks with some of their Middle Eastern countries, maybe UAE, maybe, I don't know, maybe Iran, by the way, maybe Algeria, I don't know, to produce Su-75 Checkmates. Because in Russian media, I did not see any reports, by the way, about intent of Russian Defense Ministry to purchase these planes, Su-75s, right? So therefore, Sukhoi engineering bureau obviously wants to take certain share on the market of fifth-gen fighter jets, and they want to push this Su-75 for foreign markets. And one of the ways to do so is to basically transfer technology, transfer licensed production or combined production, organized combined production of the plane. And yet again, I guess one of their candidates is UAE, that might actually agree on the combined production of the Russian Su-75s. Well, might be their case, sir. I don't know. We will find out in upcoming years, I guess, right? And I said that I have seen no reports about Russian militaries interested in purchasing this plane. There was no reports in media about it. And I guess one of the reasons is that this plane has one engine. And, Russia is the biggest country in this world, right? And plane itself might be very capable, great, strike plane, multi-role plane, but its range very much going to be limited because it's a smaller, right? And endurance obviously is a big deal. And traditionally for decades since the Soviet Union, by the way, after MiG-23 MiG-27 design, every other plane during the Soviet era, and also in Russia, every other plane, by the way, was with the two engines, right? And this is yet again quite explainable, because with the two engines you can build a larger airframe, right? You might have and you will have more fuel, you can cover more territory. And for Russia, it makes all the sense, right? If you are a small country, you can have one engine plane, right? Now there is discussions, by the way, in Canada, isn't it? They want to purchase Saabs instead of American F-15EX or something, right? And there is an argument on American side that purchase of Saab will be a mistake for Canada, yet again, because it has one engine, and because Canada is the second biggest country in this world. One engine means smaller plane. And Saab is like twice small than Su-57, for example. It's freaking tiny, right? Compared to Russian Su-30 or Russian Su-57 or 35, right? So that's how it is. Maybe soon we will learn that combined production of Su-75 has begun between either Russia and the United Arab Emirates, or Russia and some other Middle Eastern countries. Interesting, by the way. Also, a few more news, dear friends. Trump officials slam Venezuela Nobel winner as a spoiler, according to Politico. And well, what a surprise, isn't it? We all knew, by the way, that all these people, Machado now and Guaido a few years ago, we all knew that all these people were just freaking puppets, right, for Washington to achieve certain goals that they had in Venezuela. And now, when they have a direct control over the Venezuela, why would they need any of these individuals that Washington actually helped to become big names on the world scale? I mean, Machado was even given freaking Nobel Peace Prize, man, for what? But nevertheless, right? Washington created these figures, and if Guaido is forgotten now, although he was recognized, I remind you, dear friends, that he was recognized as a legit president of Venezuela, not just by US, but also by dozens of European countries. I mean, how? And when I say then that Europe is or Western world is a freaking circus, I mean, I don't think anybody can actually argue with that, because they recognized Guaido as a legit president of Venezuela. So what the hell is where that Guaido guy is now? I mean, what's going on? And then all these countries, or leadership of these countries, happily push for this another one, Machado, right? And she has ambitions, by the way. If Guaido was pushed aside easily, right, without any noise, seems like Machado is a different type. I mean, she wants attention, man. She wants some she wants to play the game, right? And she's annoying now. She's annoying Washington big time, and well, she is risking big time, because it's nothing for CIA to orchestrate her some accident for Machado, and then blame this on Venezuelan some radical groups. That's it, right? She is risking annoying Washington, by the way. This is very dangerous game. I don't know if she's understand this, but anyways, let me give you some update on this matter. White House officials have grown frustrated with their anti-Maduro Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado over her remarks on the timing of elections in Venezuela. Politico reported on Friday, citing sources. Earlier this week, Machado, an opposition leader who backed the U.S. intervention into Venezuela and abduction of the president Nicolas Maduro in early January told Politico that voting could be implemented, frankly, fairly quickly, suggesting 9 to 10 months as a possible time frame. According to a White House advisor who spoke to their outlet on conditions of anonymity, Machado's comments rubbed some people the wrong way, with their officials accusing her of undermining the president's policy success, including the release of political prisoners, joint law enforcement operations between the two countries, and other areas of cooperation. You see, by the way, nowadays, yet again, because Washington has full control over Venezuela, now they are talking about Venezuela as their closest partner. Cooperation between law enforcement agencies of two countries and this and that, and so there is no place for Machado, I guess, right? No place for Machado, and someone has to tell her to just keep quieter and move away, really, until it's not too late, because it's nothing for CIA to take her out, right? And then to blame on I don't know, some radicals from Venezuela that were not happy that Maduro was kidnapped or something. That's it. End of story, right? If this individual Machado was actually thinking that U.S. administration had any care about people of Venezuela, democracy and human rights and liberties and stuff like that, then she's more stupid than even I was thinking about her, right? And I never had any high expectations about this person ever, right? So yes, Machado is crossing the line there, and RIA Novosti reported, by the way, that Mishustin, Prime Minister of the Russian Federation, spoke about her current situation in the Russian economy, and he called her economy sustainable. So Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin declared the Russian economy resilient. Faster and foremost, it's stable. We are fulfilling and will continue to fulfill all our social obligations. He responded to Russia One journalist Pavel Zarubin's question about its status. And another quote here: the consequences of this struggle are inflation, which is below forecast. It was 5.59 for the year. Mishustin recalled. He was talking about 2025, I guess, and I have to disagree with him. I don't know how they are calculating inflation, but it feels, by the way, like inflation is much higher than 5.59%. It definitely feels much higher than that. But yes, economy is withstanding pressure. This is also true. I mean, economy is withstanding pressure. Although, by the way, these measures that were implemented by government, economical bloc of the government, including central bank, to cool down economy from overheating, I guess these measures maybe went a little too far, and this year I wouldn't be at all surprised if Russian economy will end up in a recession. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because yet again, I mean, in this pursuit of cooling down the economy, economical bloc of government went just they took quite a steps, by the way. Let's say this way, isn't it? They took quite a steps, and I'm not just talking about high interest rate of central bank. There are some other policies in place, and they did cool down economy for sure, and drop in economical. And Mishustin explained that drop in economical growth, which according to Putin, for example, was 1% in 2025, is also related to this pursuit of their government to cool down economy, to deal with the inflation and stuff, right? And yes, they succeeded in that for sure, and maybe they even went a little too far. We're gonna find out this towards the end of this year, if economy will actually end up in a technical recession or in an actual recession. Not going to be surprised. Not going to be surprised at all. But anyways, by the way, Mishustin is correct. Economy is nevertheless withstanding the pressure, and this is quite something, man. Quite achievement if you keep in mind that entire freaking collective West, man, is with few exceptions, is engaged in a war against Russia, economical war and financial war and military war, right? Directly or indirectly. And this is it for a news segment. This is it for a news segment, dear friends. And hopefully you liked it. Hopefully news segment was informative. I'm always trying to pick news that might be interested for a community, right? And I think is relevant. So yes, if you like the news segment, please click that like button, leave some commentary. There was one super chat, by the way. There was one super chatter on Rumble during the stream from Scooby, and let me highlight this super chat now. Just a sec, dear friends. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat. I will react on it right now. Come on, man. Something is wrong with this. Let's try again. Okay, it worked now. And well, this is the super chat from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your support. Super chat on Rumble and the $5 donation. And a comment from Scooby is, why is there no concrete efforts or movements to get away from Western-owned big tech companies in Russia? They say data is their new oil for a reason. And well, there is effort, Scooby, here in Russia to build alternatives, for example, in recent months, there is a quite active push to popularize Max Messenger, which is a Russian messenger. It's like it's kind of alternative to their Telegram, right? Or they're not necessarily Telegram. Mostly it's alternative for WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp. And well, there is a big push to popularize Max Messenger. And I mean, I have said to my family members to create a page for me on the Max. I don't have a page yet on the Max, but I'm gonna do it for sure. And so yes, there is a Max, right? Also, here in Russia, by the way, Facebook, for example, is not that popular as it is the case in the West, because there is a Contact platform that is significantly more popular than Facebook. So there is alternative in that field, right? Also, there is a YouTube video hosting, and well, YouTube is struggling. YouTube is definitely struggling to compete with the YouTube. This is true, by the way, and I think infrastructure, man. YouTube has almost optimal infrastructure, right? YouTube is much easier to use. It's well known, right? And well, I mean, YouTube Russian version has to do a little more, I guess, to compete with this platform, YouTube. They have to advertise themselves, the platform, outside Russia too, right? They have to invest and invest big in advertising, and they have to update their own platform because many people are complaining that YouTube platform is just not as has some issues. Let's say this way, has some issues that needs to be resolved. There, too much freaking advertising, and advertising is annoying anyone, right, and everyone. And there are some other issues, right, with YouTube. But there is a push for that. There is a attempt on here in Russia to create these alternatives. So we cannot say that either government is not supporting the idea of creating alternatives, or businesses are not investing. No, there is investments, there is support, but I guess it's like people get used to these Western platforms, I guess, right? WhatsApp, YouTube, what is another one? Instagram and stuff like that, right? People just get used to it and are sticking to these platforms, and will continue to do so until Russian platforms will become bigger, right? And to become bigger, you have to invest more, and you have to develop more. I guess that's the way to go forward. So that's how it is. And Scooby, you recommend me to make platforms pages on Upscroll and BitChute, right? And I promise that I will, isn't it? And I tried, by the way, and I find out that Upscroll is only phone app. I cannot use it on a notebook. It has no desktop option, for now at least. And when it comes to phones, by the way, I'm not really that big of a user of the phone. I'm working mainly on a notebook. I'm posting regularly on my Telegram channel, isn't it? And I'm using notebook for that. I have a desktop version of the Telegram app, and I think Upscroll needs to do that too. Hopefully they will come up with a desktop version of their app. Probably they are already working. I tried to find there on a page. Maybe they have desktop version, but I wasn't able to find that version to download. And when it comes to BitChute, I tried at least 5 times to register, and it did not allow me. I don't know why. There's always some error with this, error with that. Do this, do that. It's I don't know. I try, man. Once, twice, second, third times, again and again, and there's always something that BitChute is not happy with. So I don't know how to register even. It's you see, this type of issues has to be resolved, man. Because if one came to register and you are not allowing registration for 5 freaking times in a row, then what is the chances that this person will come back again? I'm gonna try. Nevertheless, I'm gonna try to register on BitChute, and I might activate my page on Odyssey too. Right? Let's see how it will work out. But yes, I'll try my best at least. And when it comes to BitChute, I did really try to understand what was wrong, and maybe because I'm from Russia, and obviously platforms can see IPs, right? Platforms understand. Even if you are using VPN, by the way, they do understand that your location. They might just allow you to continue use VPN, but so maybe because I'm located here in Moscow is a problem for BitChute or something. I don't know. I will try again. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and the $5 donation. And dear friends, let's have a chat. Let's have a chat now, isn't it? I will join community charter, and I will go towards the beginning of the chat, dear friends, and I will scroll down from there. And as I said, dear friends, it's a big community chat, Sunday big community chat. Live stream is already almost 2 hours, by the way, but nevertheless, let's have a talk. Let's have a friendly chat, and let's talk about any topic really. In case you want to support her in terms of this fundraising part of the stream, well, unfortunately, last 3-4 times fundraising part did not really work much. Initially, you remember, task was to raise about $200 for next week, and 3 times we actually managed to do so, isn't it? Three times we actually managed to do so, but usually we were managing to raise about like $50-$70 maybe, but last several times we were unable to reach even 20, if I remember correctly. So yes, this fundraising part is not really working. But I mean, I don't know if you are new, for example, or old member of community. I don't know if you want to support. If you think my work this week was good enough and good enough to deserve tip or donation, then under this video in description box you can find means to support. And of course, I will highlight, by the way, if they're going to be in donation either through PayPal or a Boustead or this what is the name, man? Rumble super chat, or if anyone will become a premium subscriber on Rumble or subscriber on my Patreon or the Boustead page, by the way. Of course, I will highlight that too. And just now I dropped link to my Rumble channel in YouTube chat, just in case if you want to either switch there or to, I don't know. So Alice Mali is commenting or asking, Vladimir Putin, one of Klaus Schwab's students at the Young Global Leaders in Switzerland, was question is, was Vladimir Putin one of Klaus Schwab's students at the Young Global Leaders in Switzerland? There are rumors, by the way, right? There are rumors that originally, Vladimir Putin was very much welcomed there in Western circles, right? Leading elite circles. And Western elites had high hopes that they're going to manipulate with Putin and achieve whatever goals they have in regards to Russia. But and by the way, Russian President Vladimir Putin himself, in first years of his during first years of his presidency, I mean, he was very much open for increased cooperation with the Western world. I mean, it is already publicly known that he was even exercising the idea of Russia joining the NATO, right? He was exercising idea of building united economical space from Lisbon, Portugal to Vladivostok, far east of Russia. And in many other ways, Russian president was very much for a high level of cooperation with the West. But year after year after year after year, he was realizing, while communicating with these people, influential people in the West, Western elites, that they don't see Russia as a partner. They don't see Russian elites as a partners. they see Russia as a resource field, and they see and they did not see Russian elites or Russian leadership as equal. They never treated Russian leadership as equal, right? With respect. And eventually, Putin get frustrated, right? Putin get frustrated, and in 2007 there was this famous speech of his in on the sidelines of Munich Security Conference, isn't it? I definitely recommend to check out that speech, by the way, where Putin directly said it all to all these individuals that were representing Western elites, right? That if you continue operating the same way without respect, without taking in account interests of others, including Russia, then this will lead nowhere, or this will lead towards the conflicts. And he was 100% correct, by the way, right? And Western elites probably were shocked. They probably were not expecting. They were probably not expecting from a Russian president that he will rebel against Western elites, right? And what they did in response is that they launched a war against Russia in 2008, while using their proxy regime in Georgia, which was led by Mikhail Saakashvili, and well, they used this regime in Georgia to first reignite civil war inside Georgia itself, right? And then they used Saakashvili to attack Russian peacekeepers, and that was the act of war, obviously. They did it to make sure that Moscow will have no option but to get involved, right? And they began a large-scale demonization of Russia straight away, right? Since 2008. That was the answer, by the way, of Western elites on warnings of the Russian president, initiatives of the Russian president in 2007, this Munich conference from his speech. And yes, since then, the situation only deteriorated. So, there are rumors, all sorts of rumors, that Putin was a member of the club, WEF club, and this and that. I don't know if Putin was a member of which club, but in 2007, by the way, he made it clear that either Russia will be treated as their equal and with respect, or else, right? And he acted on his statements, right? And he tried his best to make sure that Russia is standing strong, man. And I have said he was history will remember him as a great leader during the peace times that Russia had since the collapse of Soviet Union, right? Maybe even since the collapse of Russian Empire. So, that's what I think, by the way. Putin was never against the West, by the way. He was not anti-Western. He was not a Western hater of the West or anything like that. He was all about cooperation, right? But his initiatives, his attitude was dismissed, neglected, and eventually he had enough of the Western elites, right? In 2007, and also on this very matter, old guy is commenting. Putin was in the WEF, World Economic Forum, Young Leaders class of the 90s. Is he pledged to the globalist cause, or is he sly fox outsmarting an impotent Wester with the patience of a Job. Well, I guess I already answered to this question. He was never anti-Western, right? I am anti-Western, by the way. I always hated Western elites, right? Let's be real. To me personally, Western elites were always enemies since my childhood, since I mean since forever, right? I always literally hated Western elites. To me personally, Western elites are enemies, right, and will always be enemies. I was never pro-Western in this sense, right? I was never naive enough to believe that Western elites are forced for good. No, I don't know why, how, but my take on the Western world and Western elites did not really change since I was I don't know, man, teenager, right? And I hate Western elites now. I consider them to be existential threat to me, to my family, to my society, to all of humanity. And I strongly believe this is true, by the way. This is true, right? And we should keep in mind that Western elites, by the way, destroyed my country, USSR. I can go even further than that, actually, in history. They destroyed the Russian Empire through their assets. But then they destroyed but I was not live there at the empire, right, during their time of empire. But I was born in USSR, right? And I was citizen of USSR. So Western elites destroyed USSR, my country. They destroyed Georgia, by the way, right? While using Georgia against Russia. And they are trying to destroy Russia now. And come on, man. I mean, what else has to happen for anybody to realize that Western ruling elites, Western ruling class is a evil force? So I don't know. At some point in his career, Putin was maybe actually believing that Western elites are actually force for good or something. Maybe he was naive, by the way. I don't know. But yet again, in 2007, he made his points during the Munich Security Conference. He makes his stand, and he continues to push on that stand, by the way, right? So there is a Putin before Munich Security Conference, and there is Putin after, right? He was never anti-Western, but I guess in 2007 he realized that Western elites will never treat Russia equally with respect. They will never treat Russians with respect. They only see Russia as a resource. That's it. And this is not okay with Russians, by the way. Understandably so. So, I mean, one might criticize Putin for many, many reasons, but to criticize him because, he was pro-Western in early years of his politics, I don't think this is, that serious of an argument. I mean, he never hid that he was quite pro-Western, but it did not work out. So he realized that with these people, you cannot do business, man, right? He tried, though, nevertheless. He was trying, and he continues to nowadays, isn't it? Try to build some bridges with the Western world. And that's exactly what is happening, I guess, during these talks between Moscow and Washington. But I don't think it will work, man. I think deep down, Putin feels very sorry that Western world is led by these garbage people that are in charge there, right? I'm quite sure Putin would prefer to see united Europe and Russia and North America also to be one united economical alliance, let's say. I think deep down Putin would like to see that, but He knows this is not going to happen, man. It will be very beneficial, obviously, for all sides, for everybody, but it's just not happening, man. And only so long you can pursue your dream, by the way. At some point, you have to realize that, you know what, this is just a dream that never gonna happen. So, you know, let's just come down now. Let's operate on based on objective data, objective reality. Although dreams are necessary too, I guess. And dear friends, a few minutes ago, Luca donated $9 to this project. Thank you very much, Luca, for your donation through PayPal. And there was no comment or the question to highlight, but nevertheless, thank you very much for. It says 9.03. I guess it was $10, and PayPal took some percentage. Thank you very much, Luke, for your donation. And also, dear friends, let me highlight from Rumble. Let me highlight from Rumble. Ariala 59, member of our community on Rumble, just gifted their 5 premium subscriptions to members of our community, which is a $5 donation each. So it's a $25 donation basically to this project. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ariela 59, for your $25 donation and their gifts or premium subscription gifts to our community. I appreciate your support. Thank you. And let's continue, dear friends. I will scroll. If I see capital Q or capital letters. Что? Okay, Luke is NSPK 77 on YouTube, right? So NSPK 77. Thank you very much for donation. And JP is commenting, Levan, please be calm. I agree with Anna. I agree with her too. JP, sometimes I know I'm losing my cool, by the way, but when you work in this field for years and when you're emotionally invested, I'm not living outside of Russia, isn't it? I'm not living in, I don't know, man, in Chile or in Japan or South Africa or France, for example, or China. I'm living in Russia. My family lives here in Russia, by the way, and obviously I'm emotionally invested in all these developments, right? And therefore, sometimes, when you work years in this field, right, news and political commentary, when it's video programming, and when you're doing live streams, by the way, sometimes emotion is going to get to you, right? And that's what happens. That's what happens. And I have apologized many times for being a bit too emotional during some episodes. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Anna. That I have to keep my cool and just do the job without excessive emotions. This is true. And I'm trying, by the way. But sometimes it's a live stream, isn't it? You just something will switch here, and you just go emotional. That's how it works in real life, right? And this is a live stream. This is real life. So I understand, JP. Thank you for your recommendation, and I'll try my best to keep my cool, man, for sure. At least, dear friends, I'm not pretending to be someone that I am not, right? If I'm happy, I'm happy. You can read this on my face. If I'm depressed, I'm depressed. You can see that on my face. If I'm emotional, then I'm emotional. I'm always real, right? And these times, by the way, I think realness also means something, because there's too much freaking fake people online, and we all are subscribed to most likely on same projects, same channels, same media projects in many cases. And how many times you've been disappointed that you were supporting some creator, and it turned out that that creator was not actually the person that it was pretending to be, he or her were pretending to be. I have seen this kind of stuff, as you have seen numerous times, right? Because that's what happens when you are acting. At some point, your acting gonna become your acting gonna blow up, right? Your mask gonna fall. When you are real, by the way. And sometimes, yes, you might go a little too emotional, and community may not like it, but at least people know that you are not freaking messing around, right? And you are not playing no games here. And this is also something that is important. Realness is important, by the way, right? Let's continue, dear friends. But I understand you are coming from JP, and yeah, today is a community chat, so maybe I was a little too relaxed, right? Because it's usually more casual style than other updates. But on weekdays, I will definitely try to be calm and without much emotions. You see. Let's scroll now. Dear friends, my apologies if I'm gonna miss your question unwillingly. I'm just scrolling faster. I see in window here on StreamYard, I see comments in the chat from both my pages, from YouTube and Rumble. And if I spot capital Q or capital letters, I will react on it. Of course, you can use support platforms to send a question if you want to highlight any topic. And through, obviously, through super chat on Rumble. Avalanche's Comet MiG-29 had their best aerodynamic of all, my opinion. Well, MiG-29 is a wonderful plane, of course, a wonderful airframe, and latest generation of this plane is a MiG-35, of course. It's a wonderful plane. MiG-35, if declared characteristics are correct, then MiG-35 probably is one of the best 4th++ generation fighter jets. But unfortunately, MiG is struggling to find the buyers for these planes because, and MiG is struggling first of all with Sukhoi, by the way. Main competitor for MiG is Sukhoi, and I mean, Sukhoi is being much more successful on a world scale when it comes to export sales, right? So Su-30, Su-35, very popular planes. But hopefully MiG will come back with this so-called MiG-41, and MiG will come back with a big time, with big noise. Let's hope so. I definitely have high hopes that whatever project they are working on, I don't know, it's gonna be called MiG-41, replacement of 6th generation replacement of MiG-31. By the way, that's what is being reported in open sources. But I hope when they will come back with a new project, MiG-41 or whatever it's gonna be, they will be very successful. because MiG is a legendary constructor bureau or engineering bureau, of course, or design bureau, and me as a big fan of military aviation, of course, I would love to see success of this design bureau to continue. And MiG-29 definitely was a legendary, and still is, by the way, in many ways, legendary planes, as MiG had, right? MiG-15, by the way, legend, isn't it? If it comes to jet fighters, right? After World War II, I mean, there was a MiG-15 legend, undoubtedly. I mean, MiG-17, MiG-19 were good planes for sure, but maybe they did not reach that legendary status. But MiG-21 did, for sure. MiG-21 did. MiG-23, MiG-27, very difficult planes, very difficult planes. Interesting airframe with the changing angles of the wings, right? But I don't think her MiG-23 was on a level of F-2 Phantom, for example. That was a direct competitor, right? Generation-wise. Then we had our MiG-25, of course, legend, by the way. Still to nowadays, MiG-25 holds a record on the speed, right? It was the fastest ever fighter jet, MiG-25, by the way. Of course, there was a new generation of MiG-25 that was then designated as a MiG-31 that still are operational. And there are MiG-29s, of course. And hopefully their new plane going to be also legendary. Let's hope so. I love design of MiG-29 and their Su-27, by the way. They are kind of similar. Su-27 is just like twice bigger, right? But they have more or less similar aerodynamics. Oh, interesting. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, Russia is offering Su-57 with loyal wingman. And that is a hot MiG, isn't it? S-70 or S-71 strike drone, stealth strike drone that Russian military industrial complex is working on. Well, why India would not take the deal, man? India wants to be in a position to build its own fifth and potentially sixth generation fighter jets, isn't it? And to further develop aerospace industry. And I mean, one of the ways to go forward is to take a deal from Russia and buy a certain number of planes in Russia and then build the rest in India, as it was the case with the Su-30s, right? And this will enhance, I'm quite sure, Russia will transfer all the necessary technology to India. If there is any country that Russia will transfer technology on 5th gen, is India, right? And including engine technology, radar technology, everything, right? So India, I think, should take a deal, man, because they need their 5th gen fighter jets. You know, Nidish, there are rumors that China is planning to arm Islamabad with their J-35s, right? It's a good stealth planes, by the way. They're gonna be, and some Indian aircraft, some Indian radars gonna struggle to track those J-35s. So they need their answer. Nothing to be said about China itself. China has now two operational 5th gen fighter jets, isn't it? One is J-35, another is J-20, and India has none. So I don't know if India thinks that Indian military and political leadership thinks that they're gonna get 5th gen planes from America, from US, let's say. I mean, maybe they want to buy F-35s. I don't know that. You know, in that case, okay, one might say, I mean, if they will get F-35s, then there is no need to or it's going to be just too freaking expensive to also purchase Su-57s. But if India is not in a waiting list on F-35s, then just take a deal, man. Take Su-57s with a wingman or whatever, right? Why not? That, yet again, when it comes to multi-billion-dollar purchases of weapons, it's always some crazy stuff is going on there, right? And I'm quite sure there was some corruption elements involved when India purchased Rafale fighter jets, for example. Probably you will agree with me. I mean, it did not really make much sense for India to buy ground-based Rafales, at least, right? Carrier-based ones, I mean, okay, you might still understand if Russia was not in a position to give you updated carrier-based MiG-29s or Su-33s, then okay, if you purchase Rafales, carrier-based Rafales, that will make sense, that will be logical, because there is not really much choice. But ground-based Rafales, why India purchased ground-based Rafales? They are not any better than Su-30s, man. They are actually worse than Su-30s in many ways, right? Okay, they have Meteor air-to-air missiles, and how helpful that Meteor was during the engagement with the Pakistani Air Force? Not really. I mean, Western weapons are highly advertised, right? Highly advertised. The West is good in creating these legends, right? But when it comes to actual battle, by the way, usually Western weapons sucks. Usually, the Western weapons are just too freaking bad, man. Unreliable, and they're too bad. Levan, US is saying China tested nuclear weapon during their Galwan clash. I think her nuclear tests will be back. Well, I don't think China tested their nuclear weapons because you cannot hide this, isn't it? Detectors can, I mean, Russia, US, all the countries, by the way, that have seismological detectors, they will detect nuclear explosion, right? Because it creates tremendous waves that goes all around the planet, right? So you cannot hide nuclear explosion, nuclear detonation. It's just not happening, right? So I don't think China tested their nuclear weapons, but I think you are correct on a possibility, high probability that nuclear tests are gonna be back. Yes, probably this is true. US probably will be first country that will resume nuclear tests, and then Pandora's box is open. Then it does not really matter who will be second or the third. Russia, China, India, or Pakistan. But I think US will be first to test nuclear weapon. Saab's military engineering is far superior than US, hands down. Well, Saab is a great plane. I mean, Saab is a Swedish company, by the way. You all know, of course, that are producing Gripen fighter jets, and Gripen is a good 4++ generation plane, man. Tiny, compact, right? But quite capable one. But when it comes to Canada and Canada's intent to maybe buy Swedish Gripen instead of American planes, and they want to replace, I believe, US F-18s, right? US-made F-18s that are too old now. And there is there is options, right? They can purchase Rafale, for example, that has 2 engines, French Rafales, or Eurofighters, also 2 engines, right? Or US made F-15EX, also 2 engines. And this 2 engine configuration is very important, by the way, especially when it comes to long range flights. And Canada, by the way, is the second biggest country in this world, right? They need planes. I mean, it just seems logical that they need fighter jets that are capable of flying long ranges, right? Only 2 engine, vast, big airframe planes, big planes, can actually cover long distances. Smaller planes means a smaller payload, smaller tanks for fuel. Everything is smaller, by the way, right? With the smaller planes. And 1 engine is a reliability issue. When you are on any 2 engine plane, if a bird strike occurs on 1 engine, you can land the plane anyways, right? If you are losing 1 engine, you always have second one. But in 1 engine plane, if you lose engine, you're gonna eject, and plane is done, finished. So, I mean, it just makes no sense if Canada will buy Gripen, no matter how good Gripens are, man. Just because now relationships between US and Canada are on quite extreme, to purchase weapon systems in some other country that you're gonna regret in a few years' time. It's just senseless, man. I don't know. But yet again, I mean, Gripen is a good plane. I'm never gonna say it's a bad plane or anything. Michael Kennedy is commenting, Saab jets can pull up in a motorway garage and they're fill up. I mean, yes, they are tiny planes. They literally are tiny, right? And compared to, let's say, F-15s, right? Strike Eagle, for example, or Russian Su-30s or the Su-35s or Su-57s. Saab is a freaking tiny plane. Rafale is also a small one. French Rafale is also a small one, but at least it has 2 engines, and therefore there is more endurance in the place, right? Less risks. And yes, Saab is a multi-role plane that is very, very capable. You can hide it anywhere you want, or fill the tank, go on a highway, and just take off. In certain conditions, especially for smaller countries with smaller territories, yes, Saab does make sense, right? But for big countries, not really. I think U.S. Air Force is even though F-16 was a very capable plane and still is in many ways, right? Especially latest generations. F-16 was never really loved that much because of the 1 engine. And F-35, by the way, is very much hated also because of the 1 engine. Although F-35 is a whole different story. This plane is so engineered, by the way, that only 20-30% of a park is ready to take off any given time. So it's a garbage, man. It's a flying garbage. No matter how many times Western propaganda is going to say F-35 is a great plane, it's a freaking flying garbage, right? When you're only 20-30% of your park, entire freaking park, is ready at any given time to take off and do some operations, then you have a garbage plane in your hands, right? Because come on, man, this is not serious. They're constantly experiencing some difficulties it's a bad plane, man, in all possible ways. Avalanche is also commenting that her big advantage of F-35 is that it's undetectable. Yes, it's a stealth plane, and this is advantage, obviously. Obviously, this stealth capability still is advantage for now. But I mean, already, by the way, reports are that latest generations of Russian Su-35s have integrated systems in an airframe that can detect F-35s, right? Same is being said about Su-57, and generally speaking, these so-called stealth planes, by the way, are stealth for shortwave radars, right? Many people don't pay that much attention to their issue. They are loosely visible for short range shortwave radars. For long wave radars, they are visible as anything else, right? Boeing 747, this jumbo, and the F-35 makes no difference for long wave radars. They will detect both as easy as, I don't know, man, right? And now what is happening is that miniaturization of these long wave radars is taking place, right? And I'm quite sure and also simultaneously, by the way, and Russia is ahead of everybody in this regard, infrared detection, by the way, and radio electronic warfare is also speeding up in terms of development, right? Your stealth technology don't really means nothing if you cannot lock weapons on a hostile plane beyond visual range, right? Because of the jamming, right? If your missile gonna lose track once it will get closer for, like, let's say 20, 30 miles, 10 miles, just because you launch this missile 200 miles away don't really makes much difference. You have to get closer to the plane, right? You have to enter visual range combat then to deal with the situation, and so you can use heat-seeking missiles, right? That cannot be jammed with radio electronic warfare, right? And in a close range, you think F-35 has any chances against Russian Su-30s or Su-35s or Su-57s? No, man. No chances whatsoever. Russian planes will destroy as many F-35s as they have missiles and as they have shells in the gun, right? For Russian planes, F-35 is like a bus, like a freaking bus when Russian planes are Ferraris. So that's how it is, isn't it? So in 10, 15 years time, when these developments in radio electronic warfare, in infrared scanning will reach its next level, let's say, right? When miniaturization of the long range radars will reach next level, these stealth technologies, this stealth coating, stealth design, all this stuff gonna just go away, man, because it will have no meaning, It depends, of course, with whom you are fighting. If you are fighting with an air force that has no modern air force, then yeah, okay, your stealth will still work. But if you are fighting against near peer adversary, then your stealth will mean nothing. Now it does, yes, in some sense, right? But it's not gonna stay this way long. And also, Avalanche is commenting $1.5 billion a piece of F-35. I'm correct, ridiculous, lots of money. No. Entire program of F-35 will cost 1.52 trillion, sir. Right? That includes, of course, money for service and all that stuff. And I believe 1.5 trillion already being spent. But each plane now, because of the high level of production, high rate of production of F-35s. Each plane now costs around $70 million. It depends, most likely depends on a modification of the plane, but cost is being drawn down now due to high level of production to $70 million, $70 plus million each. That's F-35s, by the way. Also, Nidisher is commenting, Levan, we have a Zoho, which has its own mailing system, MS Office, etc. You see, I mean, all the countries, of course, all the countries are focusing to create local alternatives to these global platforms. But yet again, to gain true popularity, even in your country. I mean, YouTube, let's take YouTube, right? Alternative of a Russian alternative of YouTube. YouTube to become more popular than YouTube, by the way. YouTube has to be popular not just in Russia, but also in a neighboring, at least in a couple of dozen of countries. Vkontakte is more popular than Facebook because there is number of countries in which Vkontakte is also popular, right? So you can communicate with people from other countries too, and this is important for in these times. By the way, it is important for people to be in contact with their friends, relatives, from people from all over the world, right? Even with their people that they don't know, to just communicate, exchange opinions, and to provide your base such capabilities. You have to be a global scale platform, right? And in some sense, Vkontakte succeeded with that. And that's why Vkontakte is more popular than Facebook, but other platforms failed to achieve similar success. YouTube is nowhere near to be as popular as YouTube, and Max is still nowhere as known even and popular as foreign platforms, either WhatsApp or the Telegram. Despite all the support that Max is getting, right, including from government, rather indirect assistance, let's say. In some cases, even direct. I mean, WhatsApp was slowed down by state institution, right? WhatsApp was slowed down because, and the reasoning was that it was not applying to Russian law or something. It's usual stuff, isn't it? So WhatsApp was slowed down, and that was obviously direct or indirect, let's say, indirect assistance for Max to gain more popularity. And there is advertising everywhere, right, on internet about this Max. Just today, I read the news that all their apartment buildings for chat have to use Max after a certain date. And now, and here, by the way, there is every apartment building has its chat, right, where people, residents of the building, are discussing some issues, or this, that. And this is also, I mean, you might think, oh, no big deal, but no, this is also advertising, right? So Max has quite a big support to become big. But, you know, I guess some natural stuff has to be there also, not just artificial. It has to be natural, by the way, right? To gain, to actually become a success story. It has to be natural, and Max has to develop certain features, certain know-hows that will make it actually more interesting, more useful tool than any other to dominate. And also, Nidish is commenting, Levan, in a software side, I think to make our own platforms is not great at this time. As market is saturated, we have to crack the next big thinker before West does that. Will more important. Yes, I mean, you see TikTok, it's a Chinese, right? And well, they did crack that formula exactly that you are talking about, Nidish. And TikTok gained world scale popularity, although after US forced Chinese side to sell its American department, there is an outflow of people from TikTok, isn't it? There because of the censorship. There is some craziness is going on in American TikTok now. But yes, you are on point. Absolutely. I mean, we have to come up with some this new next big thing, whatever it's gonna be, man. I'm not expert in the field. I don't know what might be. Maybe we have to create something that will include everything: texter, video, audio, freaking photos, or maybe everything has to be there, right? I don't know. And maybe you have to focus your advertising on absence of censorship whatsoever, right? Absence of algorithmic influence on the contenter. This is the upscroll, right? That's the point that upscroll is emphasizing, right? New platform that there is no censorship, there is no algorithm influence and stuff. But yet again, I don't know. We will find out what's gonna be next bigger thing. Probably it will go virtual, by the way. Probably next big thing gonna be something related to virtual reality that will have all sorts of applications in it that will allow people to kind of, I don't know, man, communicate in this 3D, let's say, virtual reality somehow. I don't know. I mean, it's you have to be expert in the field to understand what is gonna be their next revolution. But overtones edges is commenting. You need a Russian phone for Max, I think. No, you don't. You can use any phone you want, any operational system. You know, I know this because I just know this, right? And soon I'm gonna test it on my. I have asked my family members to download for me Max to create a page for me several times, but they just ignore me. So yeah, I'm gonna download Max on my phone. It's Chinese phone, by the way, Realme or something. Yeah, old phone, and it's gonna work just fine. So, and I know on iPhones there is a Max also operating. So, yeah. Once I will have a page on Max, by the way, I will try to use Max. I will make. I don't know how Max works yet, but if it's like a Telegram, then I will create page on Max too, and I will publish news on Max also, as I do on a Telegram now and on my Twitter X page whenever I am active on those platforms. So maybe some of you will subscribe to my Max page. Let's see. I will try also to help Max to become a little more popular internationally, right? Because after all, 99% of our community is from outside of Russia. Also, I see Nitish Kumar is asking, do you think Pakistan will do land invasion of Afghanistan if things are getting worse? Oh, they have to be absolutely crazy, by the way, to actually commit to large-scale land invasion. Borderline skirmishes happening constantly, right? That's a different story. But to go ahead with their land invasion on large scale, it's going to be suicidal for Pakistan. So why would they commit to that? Especially when they are facing very significant issues with Beluchis, right? So I don't think that will work out well for them. So they're gonna, they might try to intensify their military presence on the borderline regions where Pashtuns are living mainly, right? But yeah, Pakistan is in big trouble, man. I don't even know how Pakistan gonna survive for next, I don't know, couple of decades, because there is a issue with their Beluchis issue, and Beluchis have a claim on third of the Pakistani territory, for a second. And there is an issue with Afghanistan and the Pashtun people. Nothing to be said about this very sad, tragic relationships between Islamabad and New Delhi. And so, yeah, I don't know how Pakistan gonna survive. And this is a nuclear armed country, man, right? So yeah, I think it's a big headache for Indian government for sure. Pakistan, man, big headache for many reasons, including survivability of the Pakistan itself as a country, because of course Indian government don't want Pakistani nuclear weapons to end up in the hands of some freaks, right? So no, they're gonna be no large scale Pakistani invasion into Afghanistan. I don't think they can do this, right? Yet again, dear friends, my apologies if I'm gonna miss, if I already missed maybe your question or the comment. I'm scrolling and they're looking for capital Qs or the capital letters. Interesting commenter, Albert, which Wiggler is commenting, F-35 is horribly unreliable and relies on Lockheed personnel for maintenance. Yes. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's overly engineered, therefore extremely unreliable, because, and this is intentionally done, by the way. This is classic of Western military-industrial complex. They are coming up with intentionally over-engineered equipment, right? Planes, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, everything. They are over-engineering stuff because they know more things they put in this system, then more chances are that something will break down. And therefore, they're going to make more money on the maintenance, right? This is a part of a business model that is being developed in the Western world, in US, right? And F-35 is a prime example of that. Some time ago, there was a report about Pentagon studies about the readiness of the Air Force or something, isn't it that? When it comes to this fifth-gen fighter jets, only like 30% of planes were ready, which is insane, isn't it? I mean, 25-30% planes are ready. I don't know, man. If this is not an indicator that something is wrong with these planes big time, then I don't know what's going to be. Nothing to be said about price tag on F-35s, which is already 1.5 trillion, and it's going to reach 2 trillion in years to come due to maintenance, exactly, right? And it might actually reach higher than 2 trillion. So I agree with you. I mean, US has a great engineering school, by the way, when it comes to planes, right? I love military aviation, so I appreciate when a great work is done in this field, right? And I can name a lot of planes from American school, right? Engineering school that were actually revolutionary in many ways or legendary. Sabre, by the way, right, was maybe not as legendary as F-15s, but Sabre and did and also one might say also legend, right? At least in American, in the Western world, good plane. Super Sabre was pretty much on equal terms with MiG-15. Some might argue that when pilots actually mastered these jet fighters, Super Sabres were actually had advantage over the MiG-15s in certain situations. Could be true, by the way. I never flew either plane, but yes, Super Sabre, let's say one legendary plane. If it comes to jet fighters, by the way, we are not talking about World War II era planes, right? F2 Phantom 2, F4 it was, right? F4 Phantom 2, also good plane, I will say. Some will argue that Phantom 2s turned the tide in air battles in Vietnam. Before arrival of Phantoms, MiG-21s were dominating the skies, right? Soviet built MiG-21s, and Phantom 2s were, especially when this Top Gun school was established in the US, and their pilots were training into air-to-air combat, into dogfights. Phantom 2s did manage to have impact on these air battles. So I will mention that plane. F-16, by the way, great plane. F-14, obviously, legendary plane. F-14 Tomcat. F-15, legendary fighter jet, by the way. Absolutely legendary fighter jet. F-22, great fighter jet. Did not really show much combat, but nevertheless, it's a fifth generation operational fighter jet. So you see, US military industrial complex knows how to build great planes, and F-35 is not one of those planes, man. That's all I'm saying, Nitish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, they don't want to import fighter jets at all because of our stupid Ho who never deliver on time. Levan Rafale did really well during Indo-Pak conflict. It's Chinese and US narrative to this credit. Yes, I mean, I never totally buy into these reports that Chinese made their J-10s that were in the Pakistani Air Force demolish Indian Rafales or overplayed or overwhelmed Indian Rafales. I think India lost Rafales, right? There is just too many reports on this matter that India probably actually lost Rafales. But what I understand is that Rafales were on an operation, on a mission. They delivered their payload on a target, and they were on their way back towards the base when J-10s catch up with them, right? And they shot Rafales from the 6 basically, right? And when Rafales noticed the missiles, incoming missiles, maybe it was just too freaking late to do something about it. Of course, I don't know what happened, but it was a long-range intercept, isn't it? I mean, when I say on the S6, I mean J-10s end up behind the Rafales, right? When the Rafales were going back to base. But it was not a close-range fight, obviously. But still, Nitish, why you need Rafales, ground-based Rafales? To replace MiG-29, carrier-based MiG-29s, okay, Rafales are compact planes, tiny planes, right? Relative to big boys. And you can consider Rafale as a replacement of aging MiG-29 fleet on aircraft carriers, but on the ground you have Su-30s. Su-30s are better than Rafale in all possible ways. Su-30s can launch BrahMos missiles, man. Rafale cannot even take off BrahMos, right? It's bigger than Rafale, man, I think. So why you need Rafales for on the ground? It really makes no sense to me personally, right? It's a good plane, no doubt, good for plus, let's say, generation plane, but it's nothing extraordinary. It's not better than Su-30s, man. It's just not better than Su-30s. That you have mastered, right? You have your own production of Su-30s. You might stop producing them now because you just already have like more than Russia, by the way, those planes, right? You have 200 plus Su-30s or something. And maybe you don't need any more of those type of planes, but Rafales? What for? What for, man? In some circumstances, your already retired MiG-21s probably will do the job better than Rafales will, man. And Jaguars. You still have Jaguars, isn't it? British-made Jaguars. So, and when it comes to importing planes, if Indian side wants to build the planes in India, then let the sides negotiate, man. Let the sides negotiate. India and Russia, these two countries are so crucial for each other, right? That I think compromises can be found and should be found, by the way. Moscow and New Delhi are closest freaking allies, right? And should be closest allies ever, period. So therefore, there have to be some, I know, these negotiations and stuff probably are difficult, and all sides want the best possible outcome from negotiations. But come on, man, both sides have to compromise on something. And Russia might provide I don't know, maybe Russian side will say, you know what, we give you S-500 on top of Su-57s, but you have to purchase 50 Su-57s first, right, from Russia. Then we will transfer production on India. And you will have S-500 on top of that, right? No one else except us has this system. So maybe this will work out. Maybe Russia will say, you know what, we will freaking build for your nuclear submarine. We will not give you it in a rent, but we will just freaking build it for you, right? And maybe you will pay just symbolic price for it, right? $1 billion, when the actual cost of submarines, modern submarines, might be, I don't know, 5 times more or 3 times more. There is always a way to negotiate, right? And Russia definitely can offer some stuff that India wants, and therefore India will help Russian aerospace industry to build up on the current successor to increase production rate, right? That's why this is important for Russian side. Batch of planes to be brought from Russia, and then manufacturing to be transferred, right? Licensed manufacturing, because these orders from Russian manufacturer will allow these companies to increase their basis, right? The rate of manufacturing. And India, by the way, let's be real, India play a key role in saving the Russian tank manufacturing. And people here in Russia remember this. When Soviet Union collapsed, by the way, Ural-Vagon Zavod, one of their major factories in military industrial complex that produces, among other things, tanks, Ural-Vagon Zavod was experiencing some serious difficulties, and then order came from India for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of T-90 tanks, right? Eventually, manufacturing was transferred to India, but in the beginning, India was purchasing Russian-built tanks, right? And this was a tremendous help for Uralvagon Zavod, by the way. Tremendous help. And you know this story, of course, you know, right? I don't even know where Uralvagon Zavod would be if not this purchase from India of hundreds of T-90s. And this happened, this was in 90s, by the way, right? In the 90s or early 2000s. So maybe Russian side wants a somewhat similar miracle in terms of aerospace industry, and that's why Russian side is seeking to produce more as much as possible, right? Fighter jets, because this influx of money in these companies will allow them to further, build additional warehouses and to build the infrastructure for mass production, right, in the future. NSPK 777 is asking, as a fellow Georgian, what's your view nowadays of that other controversial Georgian, Joseph Stalin? Oh, Stalin, by the way. You are Georgian, NSPK. Or you're saying as a fellow Georgian in regards to Stalin. And Stalin, of course, was Georgian Ossetian, by the way. And I am Georgian Ossetian also. And Georgian and Ossetian people have, Ossetians are, of course, descendants of Alans, Scytho-Sarmatians, right? Alans were Sarmatian, part of Sarmatian Union, and Sarmats were part of Scytho-Sarmatian civilization, of course. And there is thousands of years of contacts and thousands of years of story of relationships between Ossetians and Georgians. So there is a lot of mixed families and all that stuff. So don't be surprised if you hear someone is Georgian Ossetian. And Stalin is a historical figure, by the way. He's a historical figure, obviously. I don't have a negative attitude towards Stalin. I may not heroizing him. I may not be in a camp that says Stalin was a greater hero and stuff like that. But I'm not in a camp that says Stalin was evil. Definitely not, by the way. I want to know truth and what obvious truth is that the Soviet Union was led by Joseph Stalin when our people defeated Nazi Germany. That's factual truth for you, right? And the people were going into battle saying "Za Rodinu, za Stalina." That's how it was, by the way. People, ordinary people, by the way, that were going to battle, right? And maybe this was their last battle. But before their offensive, they were saying "Za Rodinu, za Stalina," and period, right? So it does mean something, isn't it? It does mean something. People, for whatever reason, were considering Stalin to be a great leader. And the reasons were numerous, by the way. Reasons were numerous, right? Because Soviet Union pulled out from poverty tens of millions of people, right? Tens of millions of people. When it comes to Industrial Revolution, by the way, I mean, another topic, right? Industrial Revolution happened during the Stalin, and the cost of Industrial Revolution was tremendous, right? There's so many people died, by the way, during this Industrial Revolution. So it's and there was a 37 year, there was a repressions, by the way. Some people blame Stalin directly for these repressions. I don't. I think Beria, head of NKVD, I mean, Beria did play extremely negative role, by the way, right? He was a bad person, I think, and mostly because of the activity of Beria and the institution under his control. Some of the people from that institution, entire government of Stalin was demonized after Soviet Union, even before Soviet Union collapsed, during the Khrushchev, by the way, Stalin was already demonized, isn't it? And I don't know, man. Stalin built the industrial core for Soviet Union, which helped to defeat Nazi Germany, and people loved him, man. What can I say? And my grandpa once, I always remember, by the way, whenever there is a conversation about it, my grandma was alive at the time, right? And I was asking her about her life during the early years of the Soviet Union. And whenever there was a talk about Stalin, if by chance I would say something that she would consider to be disrespectful of Stalin, even minor disrespectful to Stalin, she would go very emotional, right? I saw that, I was a kid myself at the, and maybe I was didn't really understood what the hell, right? But yeah, now I do understand that. Yeah, people actually think that Stalin was a great leader. Many people, by the way, many people. I would not say all, but my grandma, even though at one point she herself almost ended up in a prison, by the way, right? Almost was she was a teacher, by the way, and at one point during that year 37, right? At one point, she herself almost ended up being sent to Siberia for no reason at all. But she survived. She survived, right? And she had no hate towards Stalin. You know, she was late at school, by the way. Her problems began when one day she was late at school for 5 minutes, and I guess someone did not like her much, and maybe that someone wrote some garbage about her, and yeah, step by step, and then she almost ended up in a gulag. But yeah, so I don't know. Stalin was a historical figure that led the Soviet people towards the victory, and it means a lot. It means a lot. Anna is telling me that live stream is already 3 hours, so I should go faster and finalize the live stream. Okay, okay. Oh, by the way, Banzo Beans, our moderator on Rumble, commented that there was at that point of for the moment of this comment, there was a free premium subscriptions on Rumble. One is left now, so there is a one premium subscription, by the way, to be gifted on Rumble. So I will drop now link to my Rumble channel on in the YouTube chat. And if you go on Rumble through this link, you might get this premium subscription as a gift from a member of our community. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, John, for your support and for letting the people know how this works. Tiger Litter is commenting, question, fantasy question. If Canada had enough sense to buy Russian planes, would Russia sell to Canada? This is a fantasy question. I agree with you on that, for sure. Yes, why no? Export modifications can be sold there. SU-30s, SU-35s, maybe even export modifications of SU-57. Russia will sell it to Canada, but this is not happening, right? It's impossible, completely impossible. But Russia would not have an issue, by the way. I think Russia would not have an issue because, I mean, this is export modifications are downgraded versions of the original plane, right? So technologically, there is not that much of secrecy related to these planes, right? All their top secret stuff is removed. So mostly that's how usually these export modifications are done by all countries, by all bigger weapons exporters, right? It's not just Russia, but US does the same. But for example, F-16 for US Air Force is much more capable than F-16 in any other country's Air Force, right? Because export F-16s are downgraded. So yes, I don't think Russia would have any issues to sell Canada its fighter jets. But obviously Ottawa never gonna ask. That will make if US is reacting painfully on the talks about Canada buying Swedish Saabs, Swedish Gripens, then you can imagine reaction of Washington. If Ottawa even joked about possibility to purchase Russian planes, man, Washington will just blow up in anger, right? So, but that will be, maybe Ottawa will troll Washington a bit about this stuff. And okay, I'm gonna listen to Anna, and I'm gonna finalize this live stream. We had a good conversation, isn't it? We spoke about, I don't know, dozens of different topics. Nidish is also commenting, Levan, if we want to host a guest on your YouTube, I recommend Care Worker. He is a Syrian YouTuber, just like you. I think it will help you both. Thank you very much for recommendation, Nidish. I took a pause in terms of inviting guests for quite a while now. And if I resume inviting guests one day, I will definitely take your recommendation in account for sure. But for now, I mean, I don't really have a plans to resume inviting guests. Although maybe I should actually. Maybe I should. That could be helpful to deal with the algorithm, isn't it? Because maybe guests will bring their audience, right? And maybe algorithm will struggle to suppress those videos. Possibility there, for sure. And dear friends, I guess this is it for now. Thank you all. Thank you all for your attention, for your support. I'm quite happy, by the way. This time around, I'm quite happy with I'm quite happy with our chat. Unlike previous several chats, maybe because I was a bit depressed then. So thank you all for your attention, for a great conversation, dear friends. Have a wonderful day, and And I forgot to let you know about schedule, by the way. I should say it earlier, and I only remember now that from Monday, from tomorrow, dear friends, there will be no live streams on YouTube in the weekdays. At least if there is no any like breaking development or something. First, I will publish a pre-recorded news update on YouTube. Then shortly after, I will have a live stream on Rumble, and hopefully members of our YouTube community will join my live stream on Rumble. And later on weekdays, I'm gonna try my best to have also second updates on my Patreon and Boustead pages. And there will be combined live streams on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. So let's see how this new model will work. Maybe it will help her to deal with their algorithm on YouTube, by the way. Hopefully it does. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Bye.